The Minister for Agriculture. In May 2020, Victoria's conservation regulator prepared a report stating that continuing timber harvesting in light of the 2019-20 fires risked serious and irreversible damage to the state's biodiversity. Now, almost 12 months since the fires, the Victorian government has only just announced a major events review to understand the full impacts for our threatened species, a process that will take some time. Yet the recent state budget has just provided new funding to log in burnt forests. Why won't the Minister direct that Vic Forests cease all native forest logging in Victoria, at least until the major events review is undertaken, to be certain that logging sanctioned by this government will not cause irreversible destruction of our threatened plants, animals and their habitat?
Minister Symes.
Thank you, President. And it's almost a polar opposite question to the one I got previously. We do work in collaboration with the OCR, and when I say we, Vic Forests through the Department of DJPR and OCR through the Department of DELP work together in relation to managing forests and identifying appropriate areas to log, and we're all involved in the timber release plan and identification of coops, for example. When there's a major incident such as a fire, it is certainly the responsibility of the OCR to assess the damage and work with the departments in order to determine where is appropriate to log and where's not. For the East Gippsland fire, for example, there's no logging currently within the burnt footprint if the timber has not been burnt. So there's salvaging timber logging going on, but there is no logging of unburnt timber, even if it was allocated to a coop, for example. So these are delicate considerations. We work together, we try and get the best outcome of making sure that we're doing timber logging in a safe way, whilst also not having any negative impacts on the timber that has not been, the footprint that has not been damaged, to ensure that appropriate habitat and protections are also front of mind. So did I answer your question? I hope so.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. I note that there's quite considerable evidence and extensive research, including from leading global forest ecologist Professor David Lindenmayer of the Australian National University, that demonstrate that logging in burnt forests is the worst kind of logging. It destroys the last remaining habitat in logs and remaining trees, kills animals, reptiles and birds struggling to hold on, damages creeks and soil and brings in weeds and pests and animals. How can your government justify the environmental devastating practice of post-fire logging?
Mr Symes.
Thank you, President, and I thank Dr Ratnam for her question, and it's certainly not my intention to discredit any scientific experts such as Dr Lindenmayer, but what I've learnt in this field is that you can always find an expert that's going to argue with another expert. So there are competing views about the validity of salvage logging, for example. We are very confident in the value of salvage logging. I saw it firsthand. It was actually pretty emotive driving up the hills of, you'd know the mountains, I can't remember the name of the mountains, but up past Corryong, and you see on a map how much a forest is burnt. When you drive through it, like it's pretty confronting. And talking to those loggers, how they go about selecting trees and maintaining future regeneration practices and things. So there's a lot of things that go into making these decisions. It's not as simple as saying don't salvage or salvage. It's a matter of taking the experts the OCR goes through and making sure that the forest can come back bigger, stronger than ever, whilst also salvaging appropriate timber that would otherwise go to waste.
Thank you. Minister Statement, Mr Steve.